another time. This is i-Testify program, and we hope that all of us are going to learn at the end of this. So prepare your hearts and be ready to learn from what God is doing in other people's lives. I'm Chero and I'll be your host.
This time round, we are going to tackle something so different, and we are going to talk about leadership journey, and our guest is going to take us through his leadership journey. And I'll be your co-host, Masika Domi.
Yeah, so guys, as usual, tunajuanga tu lazima tukuwe na guest, and our guest is already here, and we'd like to take this opportunity to have him introduce himself. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Faith. Hey people, I greet you all in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. I am Walter Angela Watila, and I'm a fourth-year student here in Pwani, doing education science, maths, chemistry combination. I'm saved and I love Christ. I'm so glad and privileged, humbled as well to be your guest on this particular episode of i-Testify. Thank you so much.
Wow, welcome so much, Walter. Yeah, this is Walter Angela Watila, WQ, and he's going to be our guest today, and it's going to be something so amazing, guys. Natarajia God atatubless na tutalani wote. So Walter is going to give us a testimony of his leadership journey, how God amemtend through your leadership journey yake since he started, how the faithfulness of God over that. So before we get to know everything that concerns Walter and his leadership, let's have Walter tell us more about himself. Like, what are your hobbies? What have you learned recently? Your family background and everything.
Okay. Well, I'll start with my family background. I come from Bungoma County, a place called Kimilili. I am a firstborn in a family of 5 children, and so far so good. For my hobbies, I like listening to gospel music, and also in the recent past I've been developing an urge in writing of songs. In the recent past, there are a number of songs I've been able to encounter in my mind. So that one I also do. And then, well, currently, if I can say something that I've learned recently is how I should always view life when it comes to my existence here on earth. I'm currently reading a book called Purpose Driven Life, and so what stands out at the moment, what I can say and share to us as something I've learned, is that we should always view life and live our lives here on earth each and every day as the last day of our lives. Yeah.
Wow. So Walter, you say that you're reading a book on purpose-driven life, right?
Yeah.
So what can you say concerning our purpose as human beings from our point of view, and also the purpose that God has for us? What can you say about that?
Yeah. The first thing I can say is that many of us, when we talk of purpose, we usually want to start from the I point of view. But this book reminds me that that should not be the way. We should actually start from the God point of view. And the purpose of God in our lives is to live out His will too. And in every dimension that we encounter, we engage, our very purpose of existence here on earth is to live out the purpose of Him to us.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's the will of God for all of us to live out His purpose for Him in our lives. So it's a challenge to us. Maybe you have wondering and you do not know what is the purpose of you that God has in store for you. So it's a challenge. We can always know that by interacting with God. And the ways that we can interact with God is we read the scriptures, we pray, seek His will, day and night. So I want to challenge us that purpose, let's not view purpose from my own point of view or from your own understanding, but let's also get to know the purpose of God. Let's take a break and we'll back with the whole story of his leadership journey.
Thank you.
We celebrate.
back to the show. And I hope to already be done. Napaka objectives class. By the end of the lesson, the learner must be able to achieve. So, by the end of this, I hope and trust in God that all of us will have learned what being a leader is all about. And in case of any challenge, how are we going to tackle them? In case of achievement, how are we going to celebrate everything? And we can also, I hope we're also going to learn to influence people who are around us in different ways. It's created in as much who are in big leadership positions. So, natumai show ikisha tutakuwa tunajua what leadership is all about, what it takes to be a leader, and also what does God want us to do in the leadership positions that He has kept us. So to begin with, before we give our guest a chance to talk about his leadership journey, let us get to know what leadership is. According to the layman's language, leadership is the capacity to lead or to influence people who are within or around you. Yeah, so now let's work with that. So, to our guest, yeah, before you joined campus or before you tell us your leadership journey, in all this time that you've been in leadership position, umelan nini kuhusu leadership, or how can you define leadership in a leader?
Well, I can pick up from what you have just said and define leadership that it's actually the ability to influence people around you and around the community, and also influence circumstances inside you and around you. So, actually, from the basis definition of leadership, I'll say leadership is all about influence.
Wow.
Yeah.
So leadership is all about influence. That is the first thing that you learn. Yeah, Walter, before you joined campus, were you in any leadership position?
Yeah. Yes, I was. I was in leadership position back then in high school, and actually, I started to serve as a leader in the Christian Union while I was in Form 2. And when I entered Form 3, I still served as a leader. I was serving actually as the secretary of the Christian Union. Then apart from that, in Form 4, I was given to be a leader in charge of our room that we were doing an examination with. And so I thank God so far so good. By then, I was now starting to discover the capacity that God could have put in me to influence people around me, and even with things within myself.
So how was the experience back then in high school and in the leadership positions that you were in?
Well, the experience, I would say, is good. Yeah, of course, there is that moment of enthusiasm whereby you serve with gladness, you serve with joy, and you're just glad to serve. Yeah.
You see that is when you were in leadership in high school, that is the time when you really started to discover the leadership quality that God has had for you. What is this thing that it stood out for you?
Yeah. The thing that stood out, I will call it influence still. I remember there is a project that had not been implemented in our Christian for a longer time. And when we were given the chance to serve in the regime when I was the secretary, by God's grace, this thing came to achievement, came to fulfillment actually. And when I could go down and sit with my patron by then, I could really start to discover that there is more I can do in the kingdom of God in terms of influence, especially on how I interact with people. Yeah, that's it.
So, after your high school life, you joined campus, you came to Kilifi, came to Pwani University, and did you join the CU the very first day that you came, or ulingoja ngoja kiasi?
Sisi ni wale tulitoka nyumbani tukiambiwa, mwanangu, ukiingia university usiache Mungu. Well, when I was introducing myself at the family level, I forgot to mention this. I have been brought up in a Christian family, so it was like an avenue of exposure in some way. When I came to campus, I actually joined immediately after the orientation process and the registration process, the next thing I had to do, even before doing any other thing, was to look for the Christian Union desk. So by then I was oriented into the Christian Union and started to partake of what's there. Yeah.
Sasa wewe ulitoka na ile wadi ya mzazi, usiache Mungu. Awesome. So sasa vile uliingia CU ukapata na mabeshte huko, how was the feeling of being in the CU and having to interact with a lot of people? You are a first year, hauna mabeshte bado. How was that?
Well, Walter by then was that active person. To some extent, yes, as a first year, I could feel maybe I don't have much people around me, but I can call that experience as an awesome experience of exposure and social development in terms of interacting with other people, especially from different geographical locations as to compare to where I have been before. That's in high school. Yeah.
Okay, so what was the first leadership position that you held in the CU before being the chairperson?
The very first time I was able to be given a chance to serve by God and the Christian Union was to lead, rather serve as the first year's representative. First year's representative, in our formal language, we call them dads. And, that's where I actually started. And yeah, it was an awesome experience.
Oh, so you started being the first year's dad, alafu tukakuja tukakupata kama we ni brothers coordinator.
Yeah.
And now comes here the opportunity you've been given to be, the CU chair. And Pwani University is one of the largest university in Coast. How did you cope with that, or how did you take that first? Like unaambiwa Walter, ni wewe God amesema you're going to be the CU chair. How was the feeling? How was your take about that, even before you said yes to it?
Well, actually, the very day I was approached on this matter, it was a bit heavy to me. I actually experienced some denial, some sort of denial, some sort of insufficiency, and I was like, no, this thing, I cannot do it. I think serving in first year and second year is enough for me to have caused a little influence that God could have wished. So I felt like this one should no longer be part of me again. But at the end of it all, after a number of days, I had just to accept it by the fact that those people whom God had given an opportunity to be that committee to actually come up with these particular leaders, I actually believed they were not just being driven by their own motives and necessarily their own wisdom. And that's what motivated me. I had to accept the fact that it's God who is giving me this opportunity. Paul encourages me to tell us that to every person God appoints, He gives the grace to maneuver through. So I hate just to leave it, I guess, and see what God will do again.
Awesome. So Walter, after saying yes to I'm going to be the chairperson, how was the experience?
Well, I can say for the start, the experience was not that easy. Yeah, it was a bit tough, especially having in mind that this is something you have never done before. By the way, I had never been a chair anywhere else. Even in the meetings I've been able to attend ever since back then, I've never served as a chair. So to me, it was a bit tough experience, but at the end of it all, I had to adapt. It taught me to rely on God's guidance, and actually, it taught me how that when God gives you an opportunity to serve, He gives you the grace to do the same. And so generally, the beginning experience gave me an opportunity to be able to cope up and trust in God and trust the process that He is actually going to accomplish what He has for me and for us as a team. So I have said it was not that easy experience. It was a tough one, but God gave me the grace to be able to accept it at the end of it all.
Okay, so throughout your leadership journey, what are some of the challenges that you faced, being the chairperson and working also with the officials that were there with you? How was they? Or what were some of the challenges that you faced?
I can say, firstly, as a regime, we were so enthusiastic. We had a lot of expectations. We had a lot of plans drawn on board and ready to see what God could do in all this. But now at the end of it all, things did not actually unfold the way we expected. The very first challenge I can say is that there developed some sort of reluctance among the members. You find that due to the inconsistency of times by then, in terms of the school programs and so on, some of the members, not all of course, some of the members developed some sort of reluctance in terms of dedication to serving in various departments, in various programs, and so on. That was a challenge. And then also, due to the prevailing circumstances, uh, we also had insufficient sources of raising finances, as a church. We know that as a CU, we operate at a fairly high budget in terms of cash, but that time was not that easy. We actually had to go an extra mile in terms of financing some other programs that had to take place at that time. So that was also a challenge. And then also, some of the planned activities that we had in mind and on board were not able to come to fulfillment. We had a very inconsistent schedule of the school, and as human beings, we could feel that uh, we have not given our best. Yeah, but at the end of it all, it still motivated us to carry on. Yeah, and then also the follow up. When it comes to following up, you see, in Christian Union, we work on accountability, we work on following up, and that's what keeps us as a church and as a family. So when we entered office and sometimes later, follow up started to be a bit difficult because of the prevailing circumstances by then. So it was not that very easy, but we still thank God. Yeah.
Yeah. Wherever there are challenges, there must be achievements, right?
Sure.
So what were some of the achievements that you made?
Uh, by God's grace, we were able to review the PUCU constitution during our time in the time frame that had been set. And that one we thank God, because if it would not have happened, then it would bring an inconvenience to the incoming team after us. So we thank God for that. Then also, we were able to carry out a number of activities as a church. Yeah, we had a CM weekend, we had sports day, we had a Go 2020 initiative, and a number of Bible study programs that kept running, and we thank God for that. Also, we were able to acquire some new assets, regardless of the financial constraint that I had earlier mentioned as a challenge. But God helped us to acquire some new assets, such as printer, such as the treasury phone, and some hardy copy books. You can see the CM, the creative ministry laptop, and we thank God. And then also, we were able to carry out the first year's orientation, both online and physically. And we bless the Lord for that. Also, we were able to fully develop the website from the initial state that it was. We were able to make sure that at least it becomes at a place where we can now use it and be able to equip the media team in terms of discovery. Then also, we were able to have a relief fund during the COVID-19 season. Some of our friends were left here in Philippines. There was a lockdown, as all of us know. So during that time, we were able to initiate a relief fund that would cater for a few basic needs for some of them who are not necessarily in a position to handle that and what have you. Yeah.
Yeah, so guys, in everything that you are going to try, we always have what you call the fear of unknown, the outcome of it. What is going to happen if I try this thing? Or we also have the fear of the challenges. We've been seeing people going through some stuff in the situations or in the different positions that they are in. And we'll also put ourselves in the same bracket as leaders or people who are aspiring to be leaders. But we're getting to know that if God has given you, the grace to do something, He'll give you that the same grace will always be sufficient for you to maneuver through. Let's take a short break and we'll be back.
Hello guys, welcome back. It's my hope that you're learning something in one way or the other. So I'm going back to my guest, Walter. Okay, we all know about the COVID-19 outbreak. Everything changed. Things stopped working as they were working before. And now, being a chairperson of Christian Union, University Christian Union, how were you able to keep the members together during that time?
Well, they say change is inevitable, and to some extent, this was a new change that we were supposed and a must to be able to adhere to it and accept it. So, basically, how we were able to make sure that the PUCU fellowship that was vibrant, that was strong, does not collapse, or rather does not uh, get interrupted in any way, is that we had to embrace the new norm that was there by then during the pandemic. And the new norm I'm talking about is to embrace the ministry of social media. So we had to engage our social media platforms. First of all, before we could do that, we were able to, in conjunction with Focus Kenya, we were able to have some of our members on board to attend some training programs about social media ministry, and some of them were able to be equipped. Even as we are now planning to embark on social media ministry, I believe it was playing a very big role, the training part. So basically, what kept us going, even in the pandemic, is actually to embrace social media. In CU, we have various social media platforms. We have WhatsApp. Various departments have got WhatsApp groups. So those are the immediate platforms we resolved to use for ministry. And then now for some of the programs, of course, we had in mind even of how now could we carry out our service, how could we do Bible studies. But one thing that I came to learn is in each and every particular change you encounter, you only have to do what you can do. So we were able to just carry out some that we were able to do. And that one, meaning Bible study, we had to do it on WhatsApp. And then some of the prayer fellowships, we were doing them on Google Meet. And then some of the meetings for the officials, we could do them on Google Meet or on WhatsApp or on sometimes also Zoom. So basically that shift of our focus in terms of ministry is what helped us to be able to cope.
Okay,
Yeah.
and what did you learn during that period?
Yeah, actually, what I can say that I learned is despite of our expectations, yeah, God's purpose in your life in a particular season will always stand. And regardless of whether you had which expectation, this purpose of God will always stand, and it will always give an everlasting hope. So that's what encouraged us, and that is what I learned, that how much I have this in my hand as an expectation, to do, or rather to achieve. At the end of the day, the purpose of God is the one that is sovereign in all this. So it doesn't have to be really all about me. It has to be really all about God. And that's what I learned. Totally to rely on God.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you encounter any challenges?
Yes, of course they are there. In every particular setting, in every particular change. In fact, in this life, I can say that the very area of life that is accompanied with a lot of change is when, with a lot of challenge, I mean, is when change happens. At any particular interval of change, there will be more challenges. So the very challenge that was dominant was basically consistency of members in these particular programs. You are now at home. Every person is at their home, and you are not in a position to see them physically, apart from maybe a few cases where maybe some of them had not gone home from Kilifi. Apart from those, you are not able to have that clear track of how members are physically. So when it comes, for example, a Bible study starting at 8 on our subgroup, you find only 2 participants are available in the group at that time. Then you're like, okay, what do we do? As a Bible study leader, you could see them. Sometimes those who had been given opportunities to facilitate various Bible study sessions, they had just to be encouraged. That was a challenge. Inconsistency of members to this particular program you're trying to bring on board in response to the pandemic.
How are you able to manage between leadership and academics, because your position was demanding a lot of time? How are you able to balance them, the two of them?
Yeah, so I can say and agree with that fact that yes, the position is demanding, and as well as I was a student, I am still a student. So there are 2 things that helped me. One is that I embraced the discipline of ordering my day. This is a discipline that a friend of mine taught me, and actually is my predecessor. And ordering my day simply means having on board which particular thing am I going to do at which particular time on this particular day. So it helped me in such a manner that if there's time for class, I'll be in for class. If there is time for a discussion, I'll be in for a discussion. Then if there is time that I need to submit this particular assignment, I'll have that time in my particular schedule of that day. It helped me so that I don't forget very important things that I have to do in my academic arena. And then also something that helped me else was accountability. I had, apart from the people I interact with in the Christian Union, in my class, I had specific individuals who were specifically accountability partners. I chose not to stay alone. I chose not to stay in separation of my fellow classmates. It helped me a lot, and it's still even helping even up to now. So both at individual level and even at group level, we could find that this gave us a platform to be doing revision questions together in a group. And now when you go out to revise as an individual, it becomes also an easy work. So accountability and the discipline of ordering my day. Yeah.
Okay, and what advice can you give to leaders outside here?
Yeah. I'll only say this, nothing but the one thing, and that you as a leader at any particular capacity have been given an opportunity to serve. And there is one thing that will always stand out, that efforts that have been channeled to a particular goal have got more energy than scattered efforts. So any leader serving, especially now, let me narrow down to the Christian Union, that we know the basic goals of the Christian Union as a church. So any kind of leader in the Christian Union should always channel the efforts towards achieving these particular objectives of the Christian Union. That is what stands out. And actually, as I had said earlier, that success is not all about, should not be measured in terms of how many expectations at a personal level do you meet, but how to which extent do you meet the very purpose of God. Yeah. So channeling, concentrating the efforts, energy, time to a particular objective at a time.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay, Walter, you can, before we conclude our session, you can give us your last words.
Yeah, I could comment and say, first of all, that thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to be a guest in this particular show. I really appreciate and thank God, hoping that the testimonies we have shared here are going to be an encouragement to someone else. I could comment and say that for any particular student in a tertiary institution, be it a college or university or anywhere, tertiary learning institution, the Christian Union could be and is the best place to be because you are equipped to be a transformation in the society. So I'll call upon each and everyone that we be able to keep the fire burning and follow up what Christ has for us in our lives and never forget the very core purpose we have in our lives. And very important, be in a position to identify the purpose of your life. Something else to add on, don't join the Christian Union because you are told necessarily to join, but join the Christian Union because you have an intention. Be intentional so that you grow and learn more. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Welcome. I've been encouraged this time, and it's my hope that whatever our guest has shared with us, and I would like first to thank you for sharing whatever you shared with us today. It's gonna be of a great help to the people outside here,
Sure.
because we have leaders all over. We are leaders in different ways. We are leaders in different ways. And whatever we have been assigned to do, let's do it diligently. Whatever you are going to do it diligently. Do it as if you are doing it not for man, you are doing it for God.
I hope we've learned something. Yeah, I hope we've learned something from what Walter has said. There always be fear of the unknown, but do not fear because God has something great for us. And also, there'll be challenges. And when we have challenges, it doesn't mean that we give up. Giving up is not the option. We still have to press on, having in mind that you're the person whom those people are looking up to. You might not be a leader in any CU institution or in any Christian platform. You might be a leader somewhere in your family, or even your friends trust you with that. So if you give up as a leader, who is going to be their icon? I would like us to briefly look at Joshua. Joshua is someone who took his leadership after Moses, and we see that is in the book of Joshua 1. Yeah, we're seeing that God tells Joshua that it's you who is going to take these people to the place that I swore to them. The place that God might have sworn to people, you might not be able to know, but those people might be having some objective or some mission. That is the place that God swore to them. And God has given you the grace to do it. We see that God is telling Joshua to be courageous and of good courage because it's Him who called him. So even you in that position that you're in, it's God who ordained you. And it's God who is giving you the grace to maneuver through. So do not give up in anything. Don't give up in that leadership position that you're in, because the grace of God is always sufficient. Thank you very much for keeping tuned through the show, and I'm Cheryl, have been your host.
Let's meet in the next episode. I've been your co-host, Masi Kadomi. Bye-bye.
Bye.